First of all, welcome to this video series with Cosmos Hub. Thank you for taking out time from your Cosmos 24 schedule. And I think to begin with, it'll be great if you can give us like a quick intro of about you, what you're working on, and what's your role.
Right. So yeah, my name is Noam. I work at Binary Builders. We're a team that works on the Cosmos SDK. We're the primary maintainers. I myself lead the business development team for the Interchain Foundation, actually. So we go out and we pitch the Interchain stack to organizations, Web3 organizations, as well as TradFi organizations and a few others. We also run the Interchain Builders program. Binary itself does a few other things. We're also a validator for the Cosmos Hub, and we've been doing that for a while now. Myself, beside the work that I do in business development, I am sort of very product and vision oriented for the Cosmos Hub specifically. I want to try to solve some of the organizational issues that we have in terms of coming to an agreement on what to be building. But then also specifically the things that we should be building. And my focus has always just been on solving problems today as opposed to thinking about where ATOM should be and all these other things. I think that the primary focus for me has always just been about hey, here are some people that are launching a chain and they're having issues with this and that, and how can we solve that for them so that they can have a better experience essentially. And there's a few other things, but we can talk about that as we progress. Yeah.
How did you come across the Cosmos ecosystem, and why did you decide to build on it?
Right. So getting my eyes on the blockchain technology stack in 2017, like a lot of people, I think just around COVID, a lot of things changed for me personally in my life, and I made a decision to start working in the blockchain industry. And for some reason, Cosmos seemed very, very appealing to me. The interoperability protocol, the decentralized nature of it, the app chain thesis. And I live in Berlin, I still live in Berlin, and the Interchain Foundation had a branch there essentially with a lot of people there. So I applied as a developer relations engineer, and I've never left. That was in 2021, so I've been here for about 4 years almost.
When you compare it to other ecosystems, I'm pretty sure you have browsed, experienced, explored other ecosystems as well.
Sure.
What does Cosmos offer, and especially on an SDK level that is uniquely different?
Right. Well, what's uniquely different in general is the fact that people are building blockchains as opposed to launching their application on a single blockchain like Ethereum, for example. What you get with that is control over your network, which can be very important if you want access to the protocol itself, the core protocol and the rules that set up the blockchain itself. What's really different also is how we do interoperability. I think we're probably the most secure and feature-rich interoperability protocol like IBC in the blockchain space in general. What's interesting also is that IBC is generally not a vendor-locked thing, so you can just use it. It's open source. It's kind of like TCP/IP. But what I really like about Cosmos specifically, and why I'm still here, are the people. It's just an incredible community. Cosmoverse, where we are right now, is a great space to just talk to people. We have really in-depth technical conversations that are at a very high level, and these conversations are very public. And I really appreciate that sort of public research debate that we're having, not just about the tech, but also about the vision and how we progress as a community.
Since you're working on Cosmos SDK as well, what are the things that are coming soon on Cosmos that makes you really bullish about its growth in the ecosystem and even beyond it?
Yeah, so the Cosmos SDK, so I don't work directly on the team, but I work closely with the team. And what I'm super excited about is Server v2. There's a lot of changes happening that make building SDK chains a lot easier, essentially, and a lot more customizable. I think when we started out with the design of the Cosmos SDK, we had some assumptions on what people would want. We realized over time that these assumptions, or that these requirements that people have, are actually very, very different and very varied from each other. So the design philosophy now is to essentially modularize it even further to make it so that you can literally build anything that you want in a very easy and straightforward manner. And that's what I'm excited about. And there's more that the Cosmos Hub could actually do here as well, specifically in the part of launching a chain itself. Like the process of launching a chain is still quite complicated. You have to get validators, you have to get relayers, you have to get oracles, you need to figure out your token genesis and all these things. So this is a part that I'm thinking about a lot. It's well, how can we make that process very easy, and how can the Cosmos Hub support that? And I think interchain security is a part of that. Halo is potentially a part of that, and Forge can definitely be a part of that, and we need to expand on that.
If you were to take 2-3 things that have to be a priority for Cosmos to get that mainstream adoption, to really stick to its vision and get that, as you mentioned, not just from people within the ecosystem, but also from retail and other Web2 ecosystems of sort, what would those be?
I guess like the three priorities right now is liquidity is like probably the biggest existential threat to Cosmos, if I can be frank. We need to have billions of dollars in the ecosystem to be used for the financial systems, the DeFi protocols that exist there. That's like the biggest priority that we need to be focusing on. Secondly, we need to make it so that we optimize for use cases that we think are actually necessary in the Web2 space. I think this is an underexplored thing. We are building crypto products, right? This doesn't necessarily help the rest of the world. In some cases it does, but there are, I think, use cases that can be explored in the Web2 space that we need to essentially optimize for. And then I think like thirdly, there is, maybe this fits into the liquidity thing, but there's like a fiat on-ramping problem still. There's more that I can say about this. There's a lot of things we need to work on basically, but those are the most important ones in my opinion.
I mean, the interchain security is definitely getting like more and more consumer chains now, and there's a lot of momentum building up for it. What are your thoughts about it? Do you think it can really help with cross-chain collaboration with other ecosystems like EVM, Bitcoin, or Solana? You can share like your thoughts on both sides of it.
Yeah. So I think interchain security, once it went permissionless, so interchain security v2 or partial set security, that is when it started becoming interesting to people because it's actually, interchain security was there before EigenLayer, and it's also a restaking protocol, right? The first to do so, actually. But because of its architecture at the time, it was maybe less appealing and it was very governance gated, and that caused a bit of difficulties. Now that that's gone, it's definitely a lot more appealing. In terms of like alignment with the rest of the Web3 space, like the EVM space, I don't necessarily think that ICS is positioned to solve that problem. I think interoperability and liquidity solutions are more oriented towards that. There are a couple of things we need to do. We need to expand IBC to all the EVM networks, as well as Solana and some of the other major blockchain networks. Firstly, and then secondly, we need to solve like a critical UX problem, which is that we don't have native EVM wallet support on most of these Cosmos chains. The end result that we want is that a user who goes to a Cosmos chain, whether a MetaMask wallet or a Rainbow wallet or whatever, that they don't have to install a new Cosmos wallet. They should ideally just be able to use their existing platform to interact with all these Cosmos chains, and it should probably work the other way around as well. And if we do that, then the sort of like the bridging process becomes a lot easier. I don't think that has much to do with interchain security. That's more about how we optimize the SDK and what kind of tooling we build around this.
You mentioned about the UX aspect, and I think that's super important because we can't onboard more users if the process is not like very intuitive enough, and there's not enough, like someone mentioned about the documentation aspect of it also.
Right.
What more would you add for chains that are building here that they need to improve in terms of getting that option to make onboarding users more frictionless?
Right. So when you talk about users, several categories, right? So when we talk about users in the Cosmos tech stack, we're talking about developers, right? We want developers to build with the stack, but I think you're talking about retail users, people that are actually using these products. Okay. So the retail users, there's also various different ones. We've been seeing in the blockchain space a lot is, initially at least, is like, okay, somebody will launch a chain, they say, like, oh, I'm launching it on Base because on Base I have a lot of users, so I'm gonna go and get that. But what we're really doing is we have this small user pile, and we're all just saying like, oh, I want a piece of that pie, I want a piece of that pie. But that's the same user group, and that group doesn't really grow very rapidly. And so in order to grow that group and to have actual users come in, there's a couple things we need to do. I think fiat on-ramping is actually like a really important one here. I think what we want to get to is a situation where any sort of blockchain product that you use, if you want to buy an NFT or you want to buy a token, you should be able to on-chain just essentially like, without having to create a wallet even, be able to pay with your credit card to buy an NFT without anything. Flow, the blockchain Flow and NBA Top Shots and Dapper Labs payment platform actually does this really well. I really encourage people to try that out because that shows you what that experience can look like. And I think that's something we need to bring into Cosmos. Now, the second thing is, again, we need to recognize that it's not just about all these financial products. In fact, I think there's a lot more opportunity in front of us than behind us, and these opportunities are probably not all financial products. There's gaming, there's DePIN, there's a ton of things that we need to be doing, and I think that's the point where we start seeing sort of like more users coming in. And the key here is that those users will not know that they're using a blockchain, and they shouldn't know, because that just when you go to Facebook or you go to Instagram or Twitter, you don't go like, oh yes, I'm an AWS cloud server right now, and like oh, I'm using this particular tech stack or whatever. You don't think about these things, and you shouldn't. So we need to move towards that future where that becomes completely abstracted away, essentially.
Are there any tools, features, or even like dApps on Cosmos that you really enjoy using?
I would say the dApp that I use the most is Osmosis. It's like the most straightforward and easy to use DEX, honestly, in Web3. Yeah, that's definitely the most straightforward one. I'm not much of a trader, finance DeFi guy, so I don't really do a lot of that. So I'm not much of a user as much as the other people are, so maybe I can't really speak to that, but I think Osmosis is definitely the best. And in terms of the wallets, of course, like Kepler and both Leap are incredible wallets. They're easy to use, and so it's a delightful experience, basically.
That's good. Since you also contribute to Cosmos Hub directly, are there any projects or initiatives that sort of got to execution that was really memorable?
Any initiatives that were really memorable on the Cosmos Hub? Yeah. Well, I think interchain security, as it was sort of started, it's actually really impressive technology and a really impressive idea. I think we should have launched as permissionless ICS, the version that we have now. I think that should have been the one we went to market with, but that is very memorable. Yeah, I mean that's maybe the best answer I got for this one. Yeah.
If you want to mention about Halo, I think it's okay.
Well, I'm not going to shill my own idea Halo as being the most memorable thing.
No. Otherwise, also because I know you're talking about it, and there's another side to it.
Sure.
Yeah. We can jump into the rapid fire. Name one challenge that's facing Cosmos Hub right now.
Premature decentralization.
If you were to describe interchain security, would you choose it as a safety net or as a growth accelerator in Cosmos Hub?
Safety net or growth accelerator? Oof. I think neither of those are the most applicable terms. But growth accelerator is maybe the best way to look at it, yeah, sure.
A proposal number that you very vividly remember participating on?
The CosmWasm proposal. That was super interesting. Yeah.
An underrated project in Cosmos that definitely needs more eyeballs on it?
OmniFlix.
If you were to change something on Cosmos Hub overnight, what would that change be?
Better organizational structures.
If you were to choose a growth metric that people can use to track the progress of Cosmos Hub, what would that be?
Either TVL or total number of transactions per month.
Lastly, do you have a catchphrase, or if you were to give a tagline for building on Cosmos Hub, what would that be?
Build anything.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
That's all right. That's good.
Great, easy, thanks. That was fun.